ladies and gentlemen. We are delighted to welcome you to our show. And so we're showing today the Pigmalion by George Bernard show. We will be, not to test your patience, we'll be showing only 2 acts from this play. The first one and the third act. I need to announce only one thing to you before we start. That because of the desire to give all the actors opportunity to perform to the most of their abilities, most of the roles in the first act and in the third act are mixed. In the leaflets you've got, there is information on what actors take which roles. And so you can see that apart from 2 roles and 2 actors, all the rest are mixed. I'm sure you know the names of these famous actors and you will not be confused. You can also notice that the costumes will follow their characters. Yes? So I hope you won't be confused. I also hope that you won't be confused by not always very well distinguishable pronunciation of some of the heroes, because as you have probably already read the play, as you have probably know this most famous and classical plot, some of the actors are supposed to sound not very well distinguishable, because the whole play is about English and its pronunciation. The play must take around 40 minutes between the first act and the third act. I will come here once again and give a little more explanation. The cameras around here are recording the voice, so I would ask you to stay possibly quiet. All right? We shall be starting soon.
Not so long, but he ought to have got us a cap like this.
Long and go get no cap for you, missus, not until they come back after dropping that head first.
But we must have a cap. We can't stand here till 11:30. It's too bad.
What is your fault, missus?
I didn't got caps. Why couldn't he? What could he have done, poor boy? If Freddy could have gone, he would got one at the theatre door. Well, haven't you got a cap?
There's not one to be had for our money.
Oh, Freddy, there must be one. You haven't tried.
I tell you, they're all engaged. The rain was so sudden, nobody was prepared, and everybody had to take a cab. I've been all the way to Cherenkov station one way, and nearly to Latgis Circus the other, and they were all engaged.
Did you try Trafalgar Square?
There wasn't one at Trafalgar Square.
Did you try?
I've been all the way to Cherenkov station. Did you expect me to walk to Hammersmith?
You haven't tried at all. Oh, you're very helpless, Freddy. Go again and don't come back until we have found us a cab.
I shall simply get soaked for nothing.
Not about us. Are we to stay here all night with next to nothing on? You're a selfish pig.
Oh, very well. I'll go. So sorry.
Freddy, look, we're going now.
How did you know that my son's name is Freddy, pray?
Я бачу, що больше talking to the man. Oh, this one is here.
Not for the short, Marvin. The idea.
I can give you change. Ready?
Oh, please allow me, Clara. Do you have any pennies? No, I've nothing smaller than 6pence.
Name of your son? I didn't. I can give you change. Please.
Give it to me, now. This is for your flowers.
Thank you, kindly lady.
Make you give you the change. This is only penny a bunch.
Now tell me, how do you know that young gentleman's name?
I didn't.
I heard you call him by it. Don't try to deceive me.
Who's trying to deceive you? I called him Freddy or Charlie, same as you might if he was talking to a stranger in order to be pleasant.
Sixpence thrown away. Really, Mama, you might have spared Freddy that. Phew.
Oh, sir, is there any sign of it stopping?
I'm afraid not. It started worse than ever 2 minutes ago.
Oh, dear.
It's also the science nearly over. So cheer up, Captain, and buy flowers for poor girl.
I'm sorry, I haven't any change.
I can give you change.
For a sovereign, I've nothing less.
Girl, not to buy a flower for me. Take this for tuppence.
Now don't be troublesome, there's a good girl. I really haven't any change. Step. Here still happens. Give the sandwiches to you.
Thank you, sir.
You be careful. Give him a flower for it. There's a bloke here writing down every blessed word you're saying.
I done nothing wrong by speaking to the gentleman. I've tried to sell flowers. I'm respectable, will so help me. I never spoken to that to buy a flower for me. Oh, sir, don't lay a charge again for all like that. You don't know what it means to me. They'll take my character driver's for speaking to gentlemen. They don't know.
There.
Who is hurting you silly girl? What do you take me for?
It's alright. He's a gentleman. Just look at his boots. He thought you were a copper snark, sir.
What's a copper snark?
Oh, well, it's a copper snark, you might say. Sort of informer.
I take my bubble off. I never said a word.
Oh, shut up. Do I look like a policeman?
Then, when did you take down my word for? You just show me what's wrote about me. What's the improper writing? I can't read it.
I can. Cheer up, Captain, new half of a pog girl.
Because I called him Captain? I don't know how. Oh, so doesn't let you charge again for like that. You don't know what it means to me. You're...
Charge? I make no charge. Really, sir, if you're a detective, you need not begin protecting me against molestation by young women until I ask you. Anybody could see that the girl meant no harm.
Of course he could.
What business is it of
Mind
yours?
your, mind your own affairs,
never
huh?
meant no harm. Yeah.
No. What time is the money
Him.
leasing girl? It wasn't fit perfect to live in. And I had to pay 4 and 6 a week.
Live there. But stop that noise. Come. You're a good girl. You have to write where you please.
Park Lane, for instance. I'd like to go into the halls in question, I would. Do you know where I come from?
Hoxton.
Well, I said I didn't. Blimey, you know about everything, you know.
Ain't no call to meddle with me. He ain't. To interfere with the poor girl.
What on earth is Freddy doing? I shall get pneumonia if he stays at George any longer.
No skirt.
Will you please keep your impertinent remarks to yourself?
Did I say that out loud? I didn't mean so. I beg your pardon. Your mother's absent unmistakably.
How very curious. I was brought up in Lodge Lady Park near Epsom.
What a devil of a name. Excuse me, you want a cup?
Don't you dare speak to me.
Oh, please, Clara. We should be so grateful to you, sir, if you have found us a cab. Oh, thank you.
There! I know he was a plain clover copper.
But any police whistle, that's a sporting whistle.
Frightened people like that. How he liked them so.
Well, it's quite fine now, Clara. We can go.
Oh, but the cab, oh, how tiresome. The rain has stopped, and that's losing our time listening to your silliness.
I can tell you where you come from. You come from Anvil. Go back there.
Hanwell.
Thank you, teacher.
So long.
Poor girl. Hard enough for her to live without being roared and chiefed.
How do you do it, if I may ask?
Simply phonetics, the science of speech. That's my profession, also my hobby. Happy is a man who can make a living by his hobby. You can spot an Irishman or a Yorkshireman by his brogue. I can place any man within 6 miles. I can place him within 2 miles in London. Sometimes within 2 streets.
You ought to be ashamed of him some unmanly court.
But is there a living in that?
Yes, quite a fat one. This is an age of upstarts. Men begin in Kentish Town with £80 a year and end in Park Lane with 100,000. They want to drop Kentish Town, but they gave themselves away every time when they open their mouths. Now I can teach them.
Let the man in his own business and leave it to girl.
Women, seize this detestable woman instantly, or else seek the shelter of some other place of worship.
I've had to be with a leg, same as you.
A woman who utters such depressing and disgusting sounds has no right to be anywhere, no right to live. Remember that you are a human with a soul and the divine gift of articulate speech, that your native language is the language of Shakespeare and the Bible, and don't sit there crooning like a pillar's preacher. Heavens, what a sound!
Gone!
You can see this creature with her capstan English, the English that will keep her in the gutter to the end of her days. Well, sir, in 3 months I could pass the girl off as duchess at an ambassador's garden party. I could even get her lady's maid or shop assistant, which requires better English. This is the sort of thing I do for commercial millionaires. And on the profits of it, I do genuine scientific work in phonetics, and a little as poet in Miltonic lines.
I am myself a student of Indian dialects, and
Are you? Do you know Colonel Pickering, the author of spoken Sanskrit?
I am Colonel Pickering. Who are you?
Henry Higgins, author of Higgins' Universal Alphabet.
I came from India to meet you.
I was going to India to meet you.
Where do you live?
27A Wimpole Street. Come and see me tomorrow.
I'm at the Carlton. Come now and let's have a jolt over some supper.
Come by, if love.
I really haven't any change.
Liar, you said you can change a half crown.
Advent at last. Hello. Where are the 2 ladies that were here?
They all to the bus when the rain stopped.
And left me with a cab in my hands. Damnation!
Never you mind, kind gentlemen. I'm going home in taxi, so there lane, round the corner of Michael Johnson's shop. Let's see how fast I can make you open. Bye.
Well, I'm dashed.
While our staging crew changes the decorations, let me a little bit inform you on what has been happening between what we have just seen and what we will be seeing sooner. As you have understood, Professor Higgins has almost adopted the flower gal. She went to his home and she has been well trained with her pronunciation. He trained her to speak, to pronounce, as he wanted to pass her on as his pet, as a duchess at an ambassador's garden party. And in the 3rd act, we will be seeing her first try in the high-class society. So the actors will be changed, I remind you. And the change in the appearance of Eliza will be dramatic, which you will also notice. Don't let yourself be misled by the new costume and the new appearance. Soon, the continuation of the show will start.
What are you doing here today? It is my home day. You promised not to come.
Mother.
Go home at once.
I know, Mother. I gave my pupils.
But you mustn't. I'm serious, Henry. You offend all my friends. They stop coming whenever they meet you.
Nonsense. I know I have no small talk, but people don't mind.
Oh, don't they? Small talk indeed. What about your large talk, Henry? Really, dear, you mustn't stay.
I must. I have a job for you. A pathetic job.
No use, dear. I'm sorry, but I can't get round of your bubbles. And though I like to get pretty postcards in your shorthand, I always have to read the copies in ordinary writing you so thoughtfully send me.
Well, this isn't a phonetic job.
You said it was.
Not a part of it. You see, I've picked up a girl.
Does it mean that some girl has picked you up?
Not at all. I don't mean a love affair.
What a pity.
Why?
Well, you never fall in love with anyone under 45. When will you discover there are some nice-looking young women about?
Oh, I can't be bothered with young women. My idea of a lovable woman is something as like you as possible. She'll never get into the way of seriously liking young women. Some habits lie too deep to be changed. Besides, they are all idiots.
Do you know what would you do if you really love me, Henry?
Oh, Baba, what? Marry, I suppose.
No. Stop fidgeting and take your hands out of your pockets. That's a good boy. Now, wanna tell me about the girl?
She's coming to see you.
I don't remember asking her.
You didn't? I asked her. If you'd know her, you wouldn't have asked her.
Indeed. But why?
Well, it's like this. She's a common flower girl. I've picked her off the capstone.
And invited her to my home.
Oh, that will be all right. I've taught her to speak properly, and she has strict orders as to her behavior. She's to keep to two subjects, the weather and everybody's health. Fine day and how do, you know, and not to let yourself go into in general. That will be safe.
Safe. To talk about our health. To talk about our insides. And perhaps about our outsides. How could you be so silly, Henry?
Well, she must talk about something. She'll be all right. Don't be fussy. Figuring in it with me. At the sort of bet that I'll pass her off as a duchess in 6 months. I've started on her some months ago, and she's getting on like a house on fire. I shall win my bet. She has a quick ear, and she's been easier to teach than my middle-class pupils, because she's had to learn a complete new language. She talks English almost as you talk French.
That's satisfactory at all events.
Well, it isn't.
What does it mean?
You see, I've got your pronunciation all right, but you have to consider not only how a girl pronounces, but what she pronounces, and that's where...
Mrs. and Miss Ainsworth Hill.
Oh, Lord.
How do you do? How do you do? My son, Henry.
Oh, the celebrated son. I have so longed to meet you, Professor Higgins.
Delighted.
How do you do?
I've seen you before somewhere. I haven't the ghost of notion where, but I remember your voice. It doesn't matter. You'd better sit down.
I'm sorry to say that my celebrated son has no manners.
Oh.
You must know him.
I don't.
Not at all.
Oh, have I been rude? I didn't mean to be.
Colonel Pickering.
Lord of heaven, another of them.
How do you do, Mrs. Higgins?
So glad you've come. Do you know Mrs. Ansford Hill? Miss Ansford Hill?
How do you do? So, has Henry told you what we've come for?
We were interrupted. Damn it.
Oh, Henry, really?
Are we in the way?
No. You couldn't have come more fortunately. We want you to meet a friend of ours.
Yes, by George, we want 2 or 3 people. You'll do as well as anybody else.
Mr. Ainsworth Hill.
Oh, Lord.
I did it.
So good of you to come.
I'll take my oath. I've met you before somewhere. Where was it?
I don't think so.
You'd better sit down. Well, here we are, anyhow. Bless you. And what the devil are we going to talk about until Eliza comes?
Henry, you are the life and the soul of Royal Society Suarez. But please, you rather try on more commonplace occasions.
Am I? Very sorry. I suppose I am, you know.
I sympathize. I cannot in small talk. If people only be frank and say what they really think.
God forbid.
But why?
Oh, what they really think they ought to think is bad enough, Lord knows. But what they really think would break up the whole show. Do you suppose it would be really agreeable if I were to come out now with what I really think?
Is it so very cynical?
Cynical? Who the dickens said it was cynical? I just mean it wouldn't be decent.
I'm sure you don't mean that, Professor Higgins.
You see, we're all savages, more or less. We're supposed to be civilized and cultured, to know all about poetry and art and science and so on. But how many of us do know even the meanings of these names? What do you know of poetry? What do you know of science? What does he know of art or science or anything else? Oh, what the devil do you imagine I know philosophy?
Or of manners, Henry. Miss Doolittle.
Here is she, mother.
How do you do, Miss Higgins? Mr. Higgins told me I might come.
Quite so. I'm very glad indeed to see you.
How do you do, Miss Doolittle?
How do you do?
Oh, I feel sure we have met before, Mr. Little. I remember your eyes.
How do you do?
My daughter, Clara.
How do you do?
How do you do? I certainly had the pleasure.
How do you do?
My son, Freddie. By George, yes. It all comes back to me. Covent Garden. What a damn thing.
Henry, please, don't sit on my writing table. You'll break it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Will it rain, do you think?
The shallow depression in the west of his islands is likely to move slowly into the easterly direction. There are no indications of any great change in the barometrical situation.
How awfully funny.
What's wrong, young man? Why are you laughing?
Killing.
Oh, I'm sure I hope it won't turn cold. It's so much influenza about. It runs right through our family regularly every spring.
My aunt died of influenza, so they said. But it's my belief they've done the old woman in.
Done her in?
Yes, my lord, love you. Why should she die of influenza? She come from diphtheria right enough the year before. I saw her with my own eyes. Fairly blue that she was. They all thought she was dead. But my father, he kept planting gin down her throat till she came so sudden that she bit the bowl of a spoon.
Dear me.
What cause would a woman with the strength in her have to die of influenza? What can become of your new straw hat? That should have come to me. Somebody pinched it, and as they pinched it, down her in.
What does doing her in mean? That's only small talk. To the person in means to kill them. You surely don't believe that your aunt was killed?
Do I not? Them she would have killed her for a had a pin, let alone a hat.
But it can't have been right for your father to pour spirits down her throat like that. He might have killed her.
Not her. Gin was mother's milk to her. Besides, he put so much down his own throat that he knew the good of it.
Do you mean that he drank?
Drank, my word! Something chronic.
How dreadful for you.
Not a bit. It did him no harm, what I could see. When he did not keep it regular, on the burst, as you might say, from time to time. And always more agreeable when he had a drop in. When he was out of work, my mother used to give him 4 pins and tell him not to come back until he drunk himself cheerful and loving-like. You know, it's like this. Lots of women has to make their husbands drunk to make them live fit with, and well, a drop of booze of that man just takes that off, and don't make him low-spirited then. What's wrong, young man? I bet I got it right.
Give me a small talk. You do it so awfully well.
If I was doing it proper, what were you laughing at? Have I said anything I oughtn't?
No, it's all right.
Oh, what's the mercy anyhow? What I always say is well, I must go. So pleased to have met you. Goodbye, Miss Higgins.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, all.
Are you walking across the park, Miss Dilthel?
Walk? Not bloody likely. I'm going into a taxi.
Well, I really can't go use the new ways.
Oh, it's all right, Mama, quite right. People will think we never go anywhere or see anybody if we're so old-fashioned.
I dare say I'm very old-fashioned, but I hope you won't use the expression, Clara. I got so accustomed to hear you talking about men is rotters and calling everything beastly and filthy. Though I do think it's horrible and unladylike. Don't you think so, Colonel Pickering?
Don't ask me. I've been away in India for several years, and manners have changed so much, I sometimes don't understand whether I'm at a respectable dinner table or in a ship's forecastle.
It's all a matter of habit. Nobody means anything by it. You're so quiet and give such a smart emphasis to things that are not really within themselves. I find you small talk delightful and quite innocent.
Well, after that, I think it's time for us to go.
Yes, we have at home to go to still. Goodbye, Professor Higgins. Goodbye, Mrs. Higgins. Goodbye, Colonel Pickering.
Goodbye. Be sure you try that small talk at Brett Holmes. Don't be nervous about it. Teach it and strong.
I will. Such nonsense, all this early Victorian prudery.
Such damned nonsense.
Such bloody nonsense.
Clara!
Well, I guess it's time to go.
Would you like to meet Miss Doolittle again?
I should, most awfully.
Goodbye, then. You know my taste.
Yeah. Goodbye, most awfully.
Goodbye, Mrs. Higgins.
Goodbye.
You mustn't mind Clara. We're so poor. She gets so few parties, poor child. She doesn't really know, but the boy's nice, don't you think so?
Oh, of course he is. I shall always be delighted to see him.
Oh, thank you, dear. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Well, is Eliza presentable?
You silly boy, of course she's not presentable. She's a triumph of your art and of her dressmakers, but if for a moment you suppose that she doesn't give herself away in every sentence she utters, you must be perfectly cracked about her.
But don't you think something might be done? I mean, something to eliminate this angular element from her conversations?
Not as long as she's in Henry's hands.
Do you mean that my language isn't proper?
Oh no, it would be quite proper to say on a canal bosh, but it would not be proper for a lady at a garden party.
Well, I must say...
Come, Higgins, you must learn to know yourself. I haven't heard such language as yours since we used to be volunteers at Hyde Park 20 years ago.
Well, if you say so, I suppose I don't always talk like a bishop.
Colonel Pickering, will you tell me what is the exact state of things in the Wimpole Street?
Well, I've come to live there with Henry. We work on my Indian dialects together and it is more convenient.
I know all about that. That's a good arrangement. But what about the girl? Where does she live?
With us, of course. Where would she live?
On what terms? Is she a servant? If not, what is she?
I think I know what you mean, Mrs. Higgins.
Well, that's me if I do. I've had to work at a guild for every day for months to get to her pleasant beach. Besides, she's useful. She knows where my things are and remembers of my appointments and so forth.
And how does your housekeeper get on with her?
Mrs. Pierce, oh, she's jolly glad to get so much taken off your hands. Well, before Eliza came, she had to find my things and remind me of my appointments and so forth. But she's got some silly bee in her bonnet about Eliza. She keeps saying, "You don't think, sir," doesn't she, Pig?
Yes, that's the formula. You don't think, sir. That's the end of every conversation about Eliza.
As if I ever stop thinking about a girl like her confounded vowels and consonants. I'm worn out thinking about her and watching her lips and her teeth and her tongue, not to mention her soul, which is the quaintest of the lot.
You're certainly a pretty pair of babies, playing with your live doll.
Playing! The hardest job I ever tackled. Make no mistake about that, mother, but you have no idea how frightfully interesting is it to take a human being and change her into a quite different human being by creating a new speech for her. It's filling up the deepest gulf that separates class from class and soul from soul.
Yes, it's enormously interesting, my dear Miss Higgins. We take Eliza very seriously. Every week and every day almost, there is some new change. We keep records of every stage, dozens of gramophone discs and photographs.
Yes, by George, it's the most absorbing experiment I ever tackled. She regularly fills our lives up, doesn't she, Pete?
We're always talking Eliza,
Teaching Eliza.
dressing Eliza.
What? Inventing new Elizas.
Are you sure you might
No,
Miss
she
Higgins?
has the
That
most
girl is a
extraordinary
genius.
quickness of
Look, she
ear,
can play
just
the
like a
piano quite
parrot.
beautifully.
I've
We
taught
take
her
her to
with
classical
very
courses
possible
and
sounds
musical
as
halls, and it's all the same.
continental
She
dialects,
plays
African
everything she
dialects,
gets
African
when she gets
Greeks.
home, whether it's Browns or Morrison or... I beg your pardon.
Sorry. When Pickering starts shouting, nobody can get water edgeways.
Be quiet, Henry. Colonel Pickering, don't you realize that when Eliza walked into the Wimpole Street, something walked in with her?
Oh yes, her father did, but Henry soon got rid of him.
It would have been more to the point if her mother had, but as she didn't, something else did.
But what?
A problem.
Oh, I see. A problem how to pass her off as a lady.
I'll solve that problem. I have solved it already.
No, you infinitely stupid male creatures. The problem is what to be done with her afterwards.
I don't see anything in that. She can go her own way with all the advantages I have given her.
The advantages of the poor woman who was here just now. The manners and habits would disqualify a fine lady from earning her own living without giving her a fine lady's income. Is that what you mean?
Don't be right, Mrs. Higgins. You shouldn't worry.
We'll find her some other employment.
We'll do what's right. Goodbye.
Anyhow, there's no good bothering now. The thing's done. Goodbye, mother.
She's happy enough, and there are plenty of openings. We'll do what's right. Goodbye.
Let's take her to the Shakespeare exhibition at Doll's Court.
Oh yes, let's. Her marks will be delicious.
She'll mimic all the people when we get home.
Reaping.
Oh man, man, man.
Thank you very much. The show is over.